there's always that kind of issue where, a developer has to make sure that a project pencils, right? And so
Yes,
they're
of course,
looking at
sure.
it from a very numbers perspective. And then, the interesting thing for me even about development is that kind of juncture where, obviously there's a financial component, which is huge, right? In that.
Yes.
But even though that might be the driver, you're still having to deal with issues of it's where people are going to live, right? And people are going to work and commute, and it's a community and it's a city. So obviously now politics are also involved, right? And then design. So, because there's this whole, this is our neighborhoods, our community. So we don't want things to stand out, but we don't also want to be too stuck in one place, and we want to be open and innovate. So talk to us more about that. How do you kind of view those things, in your viewpoint?
Wow. Great question, John. There is a thing that has sort of emerged in working with budding developers in the MRED, and that there is a pragmatic bottom line to most development. If you're in for-profit, it's making a pencil, and if you're for not-for-profit, it's getting your capital stack to line up so that at least the thing functions. So there's many, many, many tents. Right? I used to say to people, because I have been in residential for a couple of decades, and I dearly love multifamily. And I used to say to people, it's one thing to think about how a building I'm doing that's going to shape the urban context for up to 75 years or longer, while simultaneously considering what it's like to put on makeup. And I say that because we think about the most intimate details of people's lives, and at the same time, my civic responsibility is, this is not a tent. This is not an RV. This thing's going to be there for a long time. It's going to disrupt the neighborhood for a few years initially, and then be there for a really long time, and hopefully become a cherished and well-loved element of the overall urban fabric. The best developers, John, it seems like to me, and I have to be really careful here, but they have something that is a wild-eyed visionary quality. And I'm seeing a lot of that recently, and especially as millennials, the most mature millennials, start to move into leadership roles. I see a lot of smaller developers who are willing to take a little bit more risk. And as I said, it's a very large playing field. So we need the big guys. We need the big guys with finance committees and standards of IRR and stuff to take down the bigger projects, because little guys can't do that. Right. But with all their prowess and their capital position and their reputation in the marketplace, they sometimes do not move with the nimble quality that somebody who's smaller with less things in tow does. Yeah. And again, I want to be really cautious to say that there's room for both. And I like working with both, but there's something occasionally that's a bit alluring about the younger, smaller groups who will take more chances on things.
Absolutely agree. I think even in my perspective, I envision Brick+Work to be kind of a disruptor in a sense. I'm a big Elon Musk fanboy, so I do like people that like to change, and it's probably one of the hardest things to do, right? And you could even ask him how many nights, hours that he's invested in both companies, right? So I agree with you. I think just like, bigger companies that are out right now versus the smaller, nimble tech companies that come and disrupt, there is a place for both, right? I think the stability of the bigger builders are that they are going to provide kind of an ability to get housing and commercial and, things in a neighborhood to provide that support, but they can't be the end all or the only option out there. So
sure. Well, another thing that you just I thought you were going to go there, but it's they can command the financing.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And the equity, and that's why they can do bigger stuff. And that's a critical, essential ingredient in the overall mix of what we try to do, for sure.
Yeah, I think also I've been thinking about this too, is I think there needs to be, just like venture capital, because, we're a commercial real estate startup ourselves. So very familiar with the landscape of capital raise and seed funds and all that good stuff. But if you think about it for development, just like we're kind of comparing all the players in development in financing, I think there also needs to be some funds out there that serve the purpose of funding innovative developers, if that makes sense. So in an LP stack, but with the mindset of a tech venture company, right? Where they're going, look, we need to understand what you're building, vision, concept, team, everything. We got to vet you guys. It's very difficult to raise. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, without a doubt, right?
Yeah, but I think there is that missing piece to help more innovative developers get the capital they need to make it.
I think that's an amazing observation. I would dearly love to see something like that happen. And I follow the thread. I'm also involved in modular and offsite fabrication, which is something I'm really passionate about. Yeah. And, we keep sensing every year, well, this is the year, right? But right now, with what's going on, I have never felt so much momentum to move toward an offsite fabrication sort of model. And you want to see a disruptor? John, when you really sit down and consider the whole paradigm of how that will radically shift the supply chain and delivery system for housing, especially attainable housing, it's like a lot of people who've been doing this for a long time can get really intimidated by that, because it's like, oh my gosh, right? I'm in the autumn of my career. Do I really have to downshift and learn a whole new process of doing something? Yeah. So there, and we meet that with equal parts thrilled expectation and dread. But I see it coming, and I agree with you. I mean, things that disrupt. We've been so accustomed to that for maybe the last decade, and that even the disruptor may not last, but they still change things. My favorite illustration of that is the ride-hailing services, right? One of the big deals was no cash ever was exchanged, and that was just a fabulous attribute of that system, right? Well, it wasn't long after that all the taxi cab companies adopted pay by credit, do all this kind of stuff. So they tried to duplicate that ease that the disruptor introduced. Same thing happens in development. The ideas flow both ways, right? The stability, how to organize the portfolio and the capital stack tends to flow from the top down, and the innovation, try something new, tends to percolate up. So as long as we keep that streak going both ways, it's a good deal.